Good morning, America, New York City. I'd like to welcome you to the brightest morning of a bright, beautiful future. How are you doing today? Care to give us a call? Chats, we're going to talk about one particular man, one beautiful, smiling man. You rat fucking bastards! I'm going to strangle you. Rat bastards, every single one of you. Every single one of you. God, what have I done? What have I fostered? What kind of community have I fostered? I did this to myself. I did this to myself. I see you heard the news. You goddamn right I heard the news. Chat, we're going to talk about a little thing today that I like to talk about every time election comes around. But there's a particular fucking reason I want to talk about this one. Ass butt? What do you mean, ass butt? I'm not going to answer the call. I'm already in your house, Sebas. It doesn't matter if you answer the call. Do we need to have this conversation again? Butt ass? No. You fucking an army of goobers? Yeah, apparently. Apparently. Flash the ringleader voicemail clip? Oh shit, which one was that again? Go find that one, Sunstar. I forgot about that one. Probably nothing too interesting. Listen, Woozer. Listen, I want to talk about this last election we had. So in case anybody doesn't know American politics, doesn't care, honestly, you're better for it. But after what was essentially a very strong red sweep in the last election cycle, this election cycle saw a near unanimous vote for Democrats. Virginia and New Jersey both get new Democrats. Women governors, fantastic. Absolutely fucking fantastic. I don't remember which state it is, but apparently one of them had their Republican candidate is someone who has lost like the last 3 years now. And he always loses. He wins the primary and then loses the general election every time. And that's fucking hilarious. It was that or fuck ass, and I don't want to be that mean. Listen, that's totally understandable. The thing is, chat, I know a lot of people probably don't know too much, especially because there's so many Europeans here around this time, don't know too much about Zoran Mamdani. That's my fucking mayor, I say, living in Texas. Fuck you. An Islamic woman lieutenant governor. Let's go. Let's fucking go. But this is a video. How old is this? This is from yesterday. This is before the election was called. But I want to show you what this man went from and to try and give you an idea of what I hope and what I think should be basically the future of American politics. That's the reason I have this up. That's why I wanted to show you this. You can already tell there's a date on here. This is last year. This is November 10th, 2024. The day after, I believe, Donald Trump won the presidential election. This guy seems cool. Good. If there's anybody you should follow, I think it is Zoran Mamdani. I wish to escape Texas. Relatable, Tara. But let's watch this really quick, and I want you to see the difference. Remind you, this is November 2024. Last November. Let me stop this.
How's it going, guys? You have 60 seconds to talk to us about the election. How you guys doing?
People won't even talk to him.
How you doing, boss? How's it going, sir?
At this point, he's already a candidate. I don't think he's won the primary yet.
Confident today about Democratic.
No, wait, I think he has. I think he has won the primary at this point.
I felt like I was just choosing the greater of two evils, and whatever was going to happen was
But
going to
yes,
happen.
this is what he was doing
How you doing, boss?
last year.
Walter, nice to meet
Just
you.
interviewing
Walter, did you
people,
get a
trying
chance
to talk.
vote
It
on
was
Tuesday?
difficult for him. He was 1% in the polls.
Thank you, my brother.
This is this year. This is just a few days ago.
Thank you, my brother.
Support you.
1 year ago, we were here talking to New Yorkers after Donald Trump won the presidential election. Did you get a chance to vote on Tuesday, Devin?
I did, yes.
And who did you vote for?
Donald Trump.
Tron.
The $1,000,000 question. Trump.
Honestly, I didn't vote.
I did not get a chance to vote.
But I didn't want to anyways.
And what we're finding today, do you remember exactly where we went?
But-
There are far more people excited.
Oh, in the
about
course of a
possibility
year,
politics in this
this
city on
man
the same street
went from
where last
polling
year there
at
were very few
1%
who were looking to have that conversation.
to effectively being everybody's neighbor and nearly everybody's pick. He won by a near 10% lead, which politically is a landslide, chat. Politically, a 10% lead on the next candidate is a landslide.
Yes, ma'am.
The thing is you basically don't want the Democratic endorsement. Of course, he won under the Democratic Party. He was also the candidate for the Working Families Party.
Thank you, my brother.
In case anybody didn't know that, you can run under multiple parties, and they can be the same candidate for each one. But he also ran under the Working Families Party.
Was that they were tired of a Democratic Party that thought too little of working class people across this country to offer them
There you
an
go.
affirmative vision. And why did you not vote?
There you go.
I don't believe in the system anymore.
Correct. He had more votes than both of them combined. And of course, fucking Fox News and people are already speculating this kind of shit where they're like, well, if Sliwa had just dropped out, then Cuomo could have won. No, we couldn't. No, we couldn't. I'm glad. You know what? I'm glad Sliwa did not drop out.
Thank you, brother.
Here, give me a second. I'm going to show chat what Sliwa looks like. Here, we'll pause it here. But can you see the connection that he has with the New York community? This is something the American General Democrat Party has not had in decades. Decades. Not since fucking Carter. And I forget, was Carter a Republican? I think Carter was a Republican. As all business explicitly leaves NYC because socialism. Oh, yeah, they're going to claim that shit all left, right, up, down. It's not going to happen, though. I promise you. A spot in his office? I think so, too. But here, let's see. I messed up his name yesterday. It's not Charles. What is it? It's not, is it Chuck? Why am I forgetting? It's Curtis Sliwa. Now, this man apparently has run for mayor multiple times. Like, this is him. The raspberry beret is very funny to me, like the kind you buy at the secondhand store, you know? Anyway, but this was the Republican candidate. Cuomo ran as a Democrat. He lost in the primary to Zoran. And then it was down to Zoran and Curtis Sliwa. And because Cuomo is the biggest loser on the planet, I have more stuff on that. If you don't know the kind of loser Cuomo is, that man was reputably sent to court for sexually harassing 13 women. 13 women. He got in trouble for it. I believe he was found guilty. And then do you know what he did afterwards? He started suing every single woman and filing defamation against them. Oh God, Sunstar's clip is getting all the views now. I just got the leaderboard notification. Same threats of exes that never manifest because they're not real. Because the threats to leave are not real. They will say it up, down, left, right. They're not going to leave. They're not. I promise you. Bro thinks he's big boss. The thing is, though, this man, Zoran, is a mayor of the people. Cuomo is a mayor of the rich and frankly an asshole who should never be in office again. And I hope he just rots away for the rest of his life. Curtis Sliwa, shockingly saying this about a Republican candidate, is a man of conviction and values that he believes in. Mind you, he believes in what he believes in. That's totally fine. But he is like New York to his core. Like there's almost nothing more New York than Curtis Sliwa. I don't know why I keep wanting to call him Charles for some reason. Curtis Sliwa. And genuinely, I kind of hope that Zoran gives him a position of some kind. It would be hilarious. Holy shit, 170 stream streak? Jesus. Woke is back. Hi, Melissa. But, there is a downside to this. There was a massive blue wave over this election. Like I said, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Prop 50 in California passed, so they're going to be gerrymandering in favor of the blue side in California, all that jazz. It was a blue sweep. I don't think there was any Republicans that really won anything monumental, but almost all of the Democrats representatives, whether it's governor, lieutenant governor, all that jazz, that won because the other socialist-ish candidate, I believe was in Michigan. I can't remember his name. He lost. He lost to the establishment Democrat that was there. So you would just end up with somebody who's totally fine with the status quo type stuff. And it seems to be the same thing with the other Democrat candidates. And they're younger, they're women, and they're energetic and more for the status quo, but just against Trump. And I think that's going to send, I'm almost certain it's going to send the wrong image to the Democrat Party. Or they're just going to force it more than likely, which is what they've done the last like 3 elections, is basically they're going to take an establishment Democrat. They're going to say, this is the new Democratic Party. And they're going to do everything they can to stop Zoran Mamdani's image. No, because they don't have the money to get the game. Also, random question. As a representation, what? Crazy. Fucking disgusting. Not what we're talking about. But this man ran what I can only describe as the perfect working man's campaign. He canvassed all up and down New York City every single day, connecting with its people, understanding its people. There was no boundaries that he was unwilling to cross. Like, I mean, if you talk to a regular Republican, they're going to say shit like, I don't really want to go to a mosque. That feels like a weird thing or some shit like that. No, of course, Zoran's Muslim. That's par for the course at this point. So red tide, listen, the left red, I'm fine with that. If you go far enough left, you go back to red. The kind of thing you've seen in a movie? Yes, that's exactly what it is. There will probably be a movie about his campaign because it is like the perfect underdog story. Like I said, this is a man that polled at 1% a year ago. And then over the course of 9 months became the shining beacon of democracy and possible application of socialism on the planet's largest city. This is something new. This is something to look forward to and be hopeful. If they kill him, it's fucking Jover. We're burning the place to the ground. Who's with me? Who's with me? That's my mayor. I'm from Austria. That's my mayor. I'm from Texas. Doesn't deign to set foot in a mosque? Correct. And most of the establishment Democrats, or the wealthy Democrats in this case, or Nepo babies, aren't willing to reach out to every single demographic that makes up New York. New York is an immigrant city. New York is the shining beacon of what America claims it is. It's not really what it claims it is most of the time, but New York is kind of what it could be. You can't just dismiss someone as, oh, they're an immigrant. That's like, I've never understood that. To be like, oh, they're just an immigrant, they shouldn't be mayor, or question the status of somebody's position for a political position over their non-birth status, basically, is stupid. Finally delivered in a mangled box. Did you make sure it wasn't the USPS plane that exploded last night? You made sure it didn't come out of that wreck, right? Because that was the thing that happened. From a person living in Sweden. Instead of going, don't vote for Mamdani because scary Muslim man effectively. Yeah, that's what they did. Did anybody see the AI videos that Cuomo made? We're not going to watch them because they're cringy as shit. But Cuomo apparently made a bunch of AI like Halloween AI like video shorts, and they were fucking terrible. He also claimed shit that was like, he used an AI version of Charles. Why do we keep calling him Charles? Curtis Sliwa. That essentially, he feels like a Charles for some reason. Oh, they were terrible. They were fucking awful. And the voices weren't even good. Alexa Muslim Mayor, I think it's fantastic. I think it's, the thing too is the people that are saying shit, I'm glad you brought that up, weirdly enough, Metal. The people that are saying shit like, I guess New York forgot, or some shit like that. Because I keep seeing videos of, like people celebrating, people doing their like cultural dances in front of their businesses, or starting essentially like little block parties to celebrate who they are with their neighbors, with the people around them. And there's people in the fucking comments that are like, oh, I guess New York forgot about 9/11. Also, hold on, I got a cough. Oh my goodness. Okay. AI political ads and how it could be a bad thing for future elections. He said I wasn't in control of those. Bullshit. They were posted on his account. I know, I'm sure he has interns and stuff, but he has to approve the stuff that is posted under his name. It was the FBI. Listen, depending on which conspiracy theory you believe in, it could be FBI, it could be Zionist extremists, it could be, honestly, it probably was just like Islamist extremists. But there was definitely something suspicious behind the curtain. I will say that. I don't know what's real because honestly, the powers that be will probably never tell us unless we get somebody on the inside that's like, anyway, here's the leaked documents of what went on behind it. That was, yeah, I went and voted on the props yesterday. I don't remember what Prop 15 was, but I do know apparently every single one of them passed. Unknowingly, every single one of them passed. New York isn't controlled by the white man, so now it's a terrorist state, schmange. But yeah, I was gonna say, the people who are saying shit like, I guess New York forgot about 9/11, that type of shit, that's literally just racist, dude. God, I'm gonna cough again, hold on. Oh my goodness. Oh, yes, yes. I did vote no on that one. Yeah. Yep. The FBI saw the Bojinka plots? We can totally turn this into a false flag. What the fuck? I just know everything was passed with a strong yes, apparently. Oh, thank you, Pippin. I look forward to the streams you have my support card. Yay! Awesome. 10 stream streak. Sick. But yeah, I was gonna say, I like this man. I believe in this man. I have not had this much faith in any politician. Thinking for a second. Fucking ever. Fucking ever, dude. And the attempts to call Zoran Mamdani a fucking a Nepo baby is just insane. You can't be a Nepo baby unless it's like in the field that your parents are from. Also, I'm gonna cough again. God damn it. Why is my throat so dry? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But I'm genuinely hoping that the rise of Zoran will essentially, what's the word? Motivate people my age and around my age to actually step forward and not be afraid to pitch their thoughts, pitch their ideas, and try to work their way into politics. Jesus. Again, though, I'm not gonna lie, it's given me some once and mild inspiration to be like, maybe I do want to run for politics. I don't know. I do not know. Oh no, I have been drinking water. I'm over here holding my mute button and drinking water. Goodness, I am leaving. That's the thing. And I'm like, I'm sitting here, my brain's like, you could probably do it. You could probably do it. Ooh, do I wanna? Mayor and go mayor? I think I want to aim higher than mayor. I could probably go for smaller stuff. Start city council. By the time I'm 35, I could probably aim for like maybe state senator. Bojinka Plot was the plan by Hi Crow, how are you doing? But that's only if I stay. And the thing is, I kind of don't want to stay.
There's our man. There's our man.
That's our boy. That's our boy. Anyway, to blow up 11 passenger planes over the Atlantic, taking out Pope John Paul II, flying a plane to the CIA headquarters in Langley. Huh? Be the first VTuber legislator? Oh, I would not make the VTuber side known. I think it would have to be kind of a secret thing. Granted, if y'all heard my voice, do you think you would recognize me? If you heard my voice at a podium, I bet y'all would. I bet at least one of y'all would. in a local election and learn the hard way that people have to know who you are to vote for you. Yes, that's the hardest part. Is you have to be active. You have to be out there. Becoming mayor of the world. Listen, world domination, global gay space communism. Anyway, 50-50 because you got the VA voice. Listen, it's fine. I feel like if anybody picked up on it, it would probably be because I do something that I like always do on stream. Mike Hager. I'd probably hear your voice and be incredibly confused. What the fuck? That is not at all what I expected them to look like. Odin from Orbit? What? Also, hold on, let's do this. I'm just gonna play the rest of this.
I'm excited for you to be mayor, and I hope...
Because, like...
No, actually, no. I know you're gonna become mayor.
Let's go, dude! But, like, the connection that this man had with the community, with almost every single demographic and understanding, and his willingness to be out there to see the people that he was going to be the mayor of, is something that previous mayors haven't done. Fucking Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo, these guys lord themselves over their people.
So why are you walking around
It's
Come on.
infuriating.
You gotta work every day for us. It's New York. Ain't nothing
Republicans get
done.
their asses kicked in local elections across the U.S. Kind of, yeah. I was gonna say, can you see the sadness though here? This is a year ago. This is before his major leap in popularity. That's not a big titty carnival ringleader. Listen, I'd probably also be stupid and try to have like a goofy ass gimmick too. So I'd be wearing like red suits or some shit. I would rather hang out with the people that most like federal politicians hate than hang out with the politicians themselves. Like, I can't imagine becoming so insufferable to turn into Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo. Fucking Eric Adams made his own comparison. During his corruption case, when he gave a speech, he compared himself to Jesus being on the cross. I would have just probably hit him with the like, and just left the room. The Mardi Gras stilt walker in the red carnival attire. Maybe at least once. Maybe at least once. Let me see. I think I also have... Oh, I saved this from earlier. It's the... Say hello to the New York City Gay Men's Choir chants. One of the largest community gatherings of gay men from the 90s and forward. If y'all have never heard the New York City Gay Men's Choir sing at any point, I recommend looking up some of their more professional performances because they are phenomenal. Rare footage? Listen, it's fine. It could be worse. It could be the goofiest shit. Like, I'm pretty sure this other one is AI that's just like... The guy that just makes songs about cities. It's good shit. It's good shit. How many of them are bisexual? I don't know. How are there multiple men? I'm sorry. I just love this video. But yeah, apparently they did another one too. Let's actually see if we can find it. They did another version. That was another... Oh God, Pink Pony Club. This one was the one that we just watched, right? Yeah. Costume parades. Oh! Wait, whose emote is that? Oh, okay, Lady of Dragons. Gotcha! Be gay, be musical? Hell yeah, dude. I like too, if you look throughout the crowds, you basically see like every demographic of gay man. The hyper flamboyant, the like working class, the old men, the young men. My dude's got his sleeves rolled like he's in Greece. Anyway. I don't think I have anything. Oh, right.
I spend most every night beneath the light
of a neon moon. Did somebody say triple dipper? Anyway. I don't think we need anything else here. Do I have anything in favorites? Nah. But we will go over here. Because there is a particular thing that I want to show you. Also, that shitty scrolling is my mouse wheel being busted to shit. But I want to give you an idea of how hard this man worked to get here.
And I want to take a moment here. I just want to ask everyone in this crowd.
Hi, Blood Moon. How are you doing?
Raise your hand if you have been called a terrorist while living in this city. If you can raise your hand, if you have had to deal with your name being mangled every day that you go into work.
We're not going to watch this whole video. The thing is, I'm just going to try and get it across. Oh my God, I forgot that it starts over.
مرحبا، أنا اسمي زهران ممداني وعم رشح حالي ليكون العمدة الجديد في مدينة نيويورك. بعرف شو عم تفكروا، شكلي كأني صهركم من الشام، بس
Arabic. He's done it in several languages. Why I want to say you're so pretty. Oh, thank you, Blood Moon. But like, here's him talking to taxi drivers. This I actually believe is at LaGuardia. I'm pretty sure it's LaGuardia. Might be the hospital actually. But I'm trying to find all of the other language ones he did, because he's done them in so many different languages. But I'm also trying to find his. Where is it? I also hate that it's like starting over at the top whenever I close one of these. He did one that was. I'm trying to find. That's not the donk. I want the doc. I'm doing good, but I'm actually fantastic. I went to the gym this morning. I woke up early, feeling great. But I can't find. I can't believe how many videos he put out too. There's one I'm specifically trying to find that talks about essentially the LGBT history of New York. And damn it, where is it? I've probably already scrolled past it, not recognizing it. But hi, Cap, how are you doing? It was one of the desk ones where he had like the desk at the beginning. No. It's not that one. Darn it, I can't find it. Maybe we'll have to search for it. Let's see. Let's see if we can search for it.
But one thing's for sure, liberal Democrats are done. We've got a socialist candidate on the rise in New York City. Oh no, cheap groceries, quick! Send in the molester. More and more people are waking up to Israel's
rapist embarrassed
in Palestine.
But look at this sea change. Now Democrats sympathize more with the Palestinians by 43
Fantastic.
points.
Anyway,
oh my God, that is a change in the margin of 56 points over the course of just 8 years.
And let's be real.
Hold on, I want to find. No. That's the video, but I want his original one. Why can't I find his original video?
Since taking office.
Ah, damn it. Okay, let's do. What was it? Sylvia Rivera. That's not the original. Fine, we'll do this one.
Everyone calls me Sylvia. I've had this name for. This is respect.
I'm on the Christopher Street Pier, or as it was called in Sylvia Rivera's day, the Christopher Street Docks. In the 1970s, homeless queer New Yorkers had been pushed to the margins of a hostile
Hi,
society.
Angel. How are you
It
doing?
was here, on the physical margins of our city, that they found a home.
Looks like Demon
Sylvia was
Hunter.
one
Am I
of those
right?
New Yorkers.
No, but
She
I've been
arrived here
here
at the age
far
of 11,
before Demon
where
Hunter.
She immediately landed in the center of the gay rights movement. She befriended the legendary Marsha P. Johnson, protested at Stonewall, and led marches for equality. But even among the queer community, trans New Yorkers were...
Oh, it did, Jay. It very much did. And it's the funniest thing because I could imagine Cuomo being like, finding the news that it's like, wait, wasn't he on the news when he found out that Trump endorsed him? Didn't he hang up? Wasn't that like yesterday or the day before? I'm the Mardi Gras still person Joker. Hi again. Hope you're well. Hi, Angel. Listen, sometimes you gotta break out the stilts. I want to learn to do stilt walking. That actually sounds like fun. Which one's the 19th? I don't remember what the 19th is. They're coming for me. I don't know if y'all could hear that. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep. I remember seeing like fucking the Nick Fuentes types trying to pitch repealing it.
Excluded. Rivera and others were discouraged from walking in pride, their participation erased from Stonewall history.
I believe in us getting our rights, or else I would not
Hi,
be
Newts.
out there fighting for our rights.
This cruelty took a toll. Rivera developed a substance abuse problem and was often homeless. When she had nowhere left to turn, she would sleep here, waves lapping nearby. Yet no matter what hardships she faced, Sylvia Rivera...
In less than half an hour, I've been chat. I'll see you when I'm face down in the river. Ask me or no!
House and feed trans kids. The Christopher Street Pier is like our city, a place of immense contradictions. It's where outsiders found belonging, and it's also where Marsha P. Johnson's body was found. The victim of a suspected murder no one was ever prosecuted for. But even amidst this, we can chart a clear path.
That was actually history I did not know.
Since taking office, Donald Trump...
I did not know Marsha P. Johnson was murdered.
Enormous energy
Accidentally hit an arrow key. My bad.
New York will not sit
My
idly by
bad.
while trans people are attacked. We'll deploy hundreds of lawyers to combat Trump's hate, make New York City an LGBTQIA+ sanctuary city, and create the Office of
you, Blood.
LGBTQIA+ Affairs to allocate millions.
I
to
tried my
adult
best.
housing programs as well as gender-affirming care. We can't bring Sylvia back, but we can honor her memory by building a city where trans New Yorkers are cherished. In a time of darkness, New York must...
Okay, I cried the first time I watched this, and I'm about to cry now. Help! Help! But yeah, this is just one of the ones that I wanted to show you because I know we have so many LGBTQIA folks in this community, myself included. But like, he didn't skip a demographic. He covered the entirety of New York multiple times over. And what the fuck is this? Hold on. You fucking dork. Always comes back to the lawyers. Hi, Coco. How long have you been in here? I think you. Oh, here.
Got a friend in me. Got a friend in me. Got a friend in me.
I'm petting her, but she's trying to lick me.
Yeah.
Christ. Hi, baby. But again, I'm sorry. This is my favorite politician going forward. I wish he could run for president. I would fight tooth and nail to get the conditions for presidency changed. You can be gayer than a party boat in the 80s filled with Navy sailors, but French is where I draw the line, shaking my head. My head can't be live it. Wait, can't believe it. There we go. You just misspelled it a little bit. More contentious part, I disagree. The people that like decide to gripe about what belongs and doesn't belong in legitimatquoi are namby-pamby babies who need to get their ass kicked. Every single one is going to be included. The people that do the, what is it? LGB, those like LGB groups, I'll fight them. I'll fight them in the fucking Denny's parking lot. I don't give a shit. Guys, we need to be fighting for our rights, but we need to kick out trans people because like they totally weren't a part of us getting our rights. Motherfucker, what? I'm glad you choose to disagree. I was gonna say, I mean, I'm also kind of ace. I don't much care for romance or sexual stuff that much. Hardly ever. And like, I have no urge for it, no like want for it. Okay, so here's the 1 week left, and this man uploaded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 29 videos in the course of a week. Perkins? What is Perkins? They want you to perpetuate the infighting? I'm not here to infight. I'm here to tell them to grow up and understand that everybody deserves rights. You don't get to be namby-pamby about it. You don't get to throw other people that have supported you. Yes, Stinky, what is it? I'm guessing y'all heard that one. Did y'all hear her screech? All right, I'll let you out. I'll let you out. Let's go. She does that sometimes when she like yawns and stuff. You fucking doggy, baby. Yeah. 2025 has been wild, correct. But having a person like this running for politics really, really, really gives me hope. Hell yeah, trans rights. Fuck yeah, dude. And it's one of those things to try and divide the people rather than trying to have them all connected together to understand each other as human beings is the exact opposite. The people that are basically just want LGB cuts, just nothing else there, are either full of themselves, have some sort of hate in them, and need a stern fucking talking to. I'll advocate you're a bitch and will ally myself with my identity skills. God damn it. The thing is, though, I cannot like a person. I can hate a person. I cannot like the things that they believe in. But God damn it, if I'm running for office, I need to understand, and every politician should understand this, is that they are still your constituent. You still need to see them as a person. Also, hold on, I need to drink water because I'm about to start coughing again. I think it will be. I think this is a stepping stone in a very good direction for America. The question is, and I hate to say this, is the establishment going to allow it? Or are they going to put stone walls in the way of every step that we are going to have to work together to break down? No one politician can do it alone, let alone a mayor, even if it is the mayor of the largest city on the planet. Has made me lose hope. That's the point. They want you to lose hope. They want you to give up so that the oligarchs, the fascists, whatever it is, can just take over and tear it all down. Which is why Zoran's campaign, again, and I'm going to drive this home, the reason it was so successful was because he connected everyone together. He didn't run on just Zoran for Latinos, Zoran for African Americans, Zoran for gays, et cetera, et cetera. He was Zoran Mamdani for New York. He was going to fight every step of the way for everything that every New Yorker believed in, or at least wanted to believe in. The idea of what made New York, New York. And I think that's genuinely what brought him success. That man busted his ass every day of his campaign. If you haven't seen some of the videos of just him like appearing like a wild Pokemon at clubs, on streams, just all over the place. The man was out on the streets from dusk till dawn, and then he was back at it the next day. For the people, by the people, to improve every single New Yorker's life. To be seen by your politician is something that hasn't happened in decades. Having a Muslim mayor in New York that sees his people as people and knows that they have been getting screwed for almost a century probably is fucking amazing. He is a beautiful man, and I want the fucking best for him. I like, even then, this man could take a laugh. Here, let's break out the...
You're out there scared of the idea of a young socialist Muslim mayor, so allow me to put you at ease by smiling after every answer.
This is the Zoran Mamdani from Saturday Night Live. Also the fucking... the fucking comment.
Yo! Is that my tie?
I mean, it's pretty close. We got the tie, we got the rings.
You got the...
I got the red bracelet. We got the whole thing. I got the red bracelet, the rings.
It's like, when was the last politician you saw besides fucking Obama that got to laugh at himself being on Saturday Night Live?
Oh my god, dude.
This is wild. I can't wait to see it, man.
Do you love this man or something? I love this man. I love this man as a fucking comrade. A man who understands what a politician is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be some wealthy schmuck. Hold on. It's not supposed to be some wealthy schmuck from a well-to-do family that hid away his entire life until he was old enough to run for some political seat. It's supposed to be a man that you can see yourself in. Not just a man. I don't know why I said man. Any person that you can see yourself in that seems to understand you as a person, or willing to understand you as a person if they don't understand you from the get-go. It's... Politics in the United States became a career. Career politicians that essentially developed into dynasties of politicians. My dad, like, Andrew Cuomo's dad was governor of New York. Get some work done for real. Isn't 50 minutes before lunchtime to lurk? Thank you, Angel. Thank you for hanging out. And the thing is it feels like Zoran Mamdani is what a politician should have been from the start. Someone who understands, someone who is willing to connect with the people. Not somebody that just moves to like a vacant district, shows up there and been like, I've lived here the minimum required time of 6 months, so now I'm running for your District 13's senator seat. No. This is a man that is an immigrant, moved to New York, loved what he saw at its core, but knew it could be better. He saw every individual, every demographic of New York City, of the microcosm that represents essentially the entirety of America. What happened to peeping? Peeping in Canada? Can you see yourself inside this man? Not in a sexual way. Yes. Pierre Poilievre? Oh, I don't know that. Hi, Anoop. How are you doing? We're glazing what I believe to be America's next greatest politician. Duncan behind him. Amazing. So, Anoop, if you don't, I'm pretty sure you told me you're from India or Pakistan. I can't remember which. Is the bar low or high? It shouldn't. It's high. The bar is high, but it shouldn't be. It fucking shouldn't be. Zoran did what should be required of every single politician. He ran the perfect campaign. He understood what he needed to do, how he needed to connect with people to get the policies that he wants across for the betterment of all New Yorkers. Instead, though, God, do I even want to show you some of the fucking people that are running for positions in Texas? I could show you the one lady that like lost in, I think it was Mississippi, moved to Texas, and then is now running for, I think it's a state Senate seat or a federal Senate seat. And her whole thing is hating Muslims and hating brown people, even though she's Latina. Something Valentino, I'm pretty sure. Constant Fox News reports about New York is now a hellscape. If you had to go over the high bar, then someone is almost perfection. It's the thing is, I can't quite figure out how to enunciate it properly, Angel. It's the bar by current standards is above all of the other politicians that have been running in the last several decades, but it shouldn't be. Zoran represents what a politician can and should be, what they always should have been. Somebody who connects with their people. Old white men and blonde women with too much plastic surgery. Yep. Friendly fire will not be tolerated. That's also the concept of a united front, where while you may not share every single comparative idea, there are things you want. He ran on a policy of freezing rent, free bus fares, and lowering the cost of New Yorkers. And he drove those three home. He wasn't running on some shit like, I'm here to beat Trump. Abortions are bad, or some other very specific policy. He pitched and drove home that his whole thing is to make New Yorkers' life better. Here, whose political agenda is sowing discord among people? Yeah. Common phraseology is the bar was low and somehow you still managed to dig below it. Modern politicians keep digging. He's above the bar? Correct. Correct. And there's a whole bunch of Democrats standing on the bar to make sure it's not raised. To the rest of stuff, correct. The thing is so many Democrats are literally just running on that right now. They're doing the same thing they did after the 2016 election into the 2020 election, where it basically boiled down to, I'm not Trump. I'm not a Trump supporter. Vote for me. And that fucking sucks, dude. That is not what it's supposed to be about. I'm sorry for yelling, but fucking 12 years. Gonna be 12 years of having to deal with the ups and downs of fucking Trump and his cronies and the Democratic Party pussyfooting around, running off of the fucking idea that they only need to run on a policy of, I'm not Trump. It's infuriating. It's frustrating in a two-party system where it's fascism versus enablers, or fascism versus not fascist, but also not good. Because we don't have any better choice. Yes, elections shouldn't be the lesser of two evils. Every time. This was the first time I've seen an election in my life that wasn't just either hopeless or taking the lesser of two evils. Do you think I wanted to vote for Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris? Fuck no! I wanted to vote for Bernie. Is Bernie perfect? No. Is he better in most ways, in almost every single way, than any of the other candidates every time? Yes! Yes! God damn it! Yes! Of everyone should talk it out and come together to get the best candidates. The thing is, they think they have the best candidate because, like, the Democratic Party in this case, again, pitched Hillary Clinton, arguably the most qualified presidential candidate ever in history, just with her resume. Granted, still don't like her. Kamala Harris, who, I don't know, ran on a policy of, it's my turn. I guess? And it's like, they're barely different from Republicans. Hillary Clinton basically sided with Republicans the majority of the time. They're centrist. They're establishment Democrats that will only like to keep the status quo going. I never cared for them. The only reason I voted for them was because the Democratic Party, both times, cheated their way into forcing the candidate that they wanted to keep the status quo. A policy of, I don't want to make Joe Biden mad. Ugh. Whole vibe with the shit sandwich debate scene. Oh God, I haven't seen that in forever. Because of a resume, but that's mainly because I don't like the war in Iraq. Senator Clinton, correct. Also correct. Is center a moderate right? Correct. Fence sitters, centrists, and like Democrats that are fine with the status quo. When I hear, it bothers me so much when elections come around, I hear people, I'm willing to reach across the aisle and work with the opposing party. No! Fuck that. Stop reaching across the aisle. Stop meeting them in the middle as they slowly slide into fascism or try to take rights away. Like right now, the government being shut down, yay, currently longest shutdown ever. Top 2 United States longest government shutdowns, both belong to Trump now. Awesome, hilarious. Electile dysfunction. Yes. And they're trying to blame the Democrats for it by just being like, we've tried to vote on this bill 15 times and the Democrats keep saying no, because you're not changing anything and you want to take healthcare away from 74 million people, as well as take the rights away of other Americans. Fuck you. No. The most leftist Democrat, aside from like Zoran, is seen as center right in Europe. Correct. I cannot tell you again how happy I am to see a democratic socialist succeed in the largest city on the planet and how enthused his city is for it. Watching the election and watching the debates felt like we had a real election again for the first time in decades. Aside from Cuomo being up there, because fuck that dude. Again, that is a man that lost, is a massive sore loser, and then bought himself back into the race as an independent. Again, I would have loved to see just a debate between Curtis Sliwa and Zoran Mamdani, because they actually like respected each other. They understood each other and knew what New York is at its core. While they may have differing plans on certain things, and like Curtis probably saw Zoran as a dreamer, and Zoran may have seen him as just a more average Republican, they really seemed like they understood each other at their core. They both wanted what's best for New York. And then there was fucking Cuomo being a ghoul in the corner. 40% margin? You mean between Sliwa and Zoran? Yeah, I'm not surprised. Because, mainly because New York has almost always voted Democrat. Once when I got shot a few times, it was prescription. The thing is, though, yeah, Curtis Lee was a little crazy, but he's New Yorker to his core. Sliwa did? Of course he did, because they respect each other. Cuomo is a sore fucking loser. Yeah, he got like 6.7, 6.8%, which even if all of those votes went to Cuomo, Cuomo still would have lost. But, God, dude, it makes me see a light in the tunnel, if that makes sense. When at a town hall, when we called Obama Muslim, McCain took the mic and said, no, he's a good man that I have disagreements with. He's not even, Obama wasn't even Muslim. He's Christian, isn't he? It's just that his middle name's Hussein. Because they're racist. Because the people asking those questions are racist. It's insane. The people that are like, Muhammad's the most popular name on the planet now. Oh, gee, I fucking wonder why. It may be because Muslim countries are doing decent at reproducing and, well, unfortunately, not very well at staying alive. But that's due to other influences. But anytime I hear somebody that does that, I think it's like, Muhammad's the #1 name on the planet right now for newborns. Okay. Okay, chat, hold on. I just heard, I think Coco just farted by my door, so I need to go make sure she's not shitting in the dining room. So give me just a second. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty close, Kelvin. I heard, no, it was like one of the squeaky farts. It was like the fart, not the farting on my roommate's door. Isn't that, what's his name? Oh, please tell me it wasn't like King Dripper the Ass Ripper or something like that. I can't remember what his name was. But also, we have a minute until the ad break. Let me go ahead and get a game up for y'all. Let's do Stream Pairs. Actually, hold on. Gardic Show? That's not it. Gardic on stream. Are you going to work this time? Or are you going to error out? Okay, you worked. Because last time it just kept erroring out for some stupid reason. All right. King Dripper the Astrofert. I'm pretty sure that was the dude that used to just walk around in his underwear and rip the rankest farts on like doorways or some shit like that. The man had fucking streaks. He had streaks. All right. All right, chat. I'm going to give you Gartic Phone for this. I'm not going to go anywhere, though, so we're still going to be here. But we'll probably look at a couple more of these, and then we'll get around to the game in just a little bit. What in the biohazard hell? Yeah. That was like, I was a teenager when a friend, like, sent him to me, and I was like, what the fuck are you sending me? King Ass Ripper, that's it. King Ass Ripper, the dripper sniffer. Isn't that what it was? King Ass Ripper, the dripper sniffer, or something like that. I can't remember for sure. That dude's diet must have been abominable. Probably. Cheese. Is it not cheese? Also, that is a crazy good... Oh no, it's a cracker. Saltine? It looks like a cracker. Fence? Not collar, is it? Lock? Slide lock. Is that a cigar? What are the little smiley ghost things? Deadbolt, of course. Hedgehog? Nice. Is it? It could be an announcer. Dots? No. Winner? All right, we only just hit the 2 minutes left on the ad break, so we'll do another round. Okay. Newscaster? I'm not sure. It's very strange. It's very strange. Back from ads, it still says there's a minute and a half. I figured it was like call center agent or something, but if they don't use that many words. Bean. Pinto bean. Kidney bean. Red bean. Ram. Sheep. Goat. Macaroni. Piano. Keyboard. Librarian. Newspaper. How's that not piano? Frackle, frackle. It's not bean. It's got to be something else. Bald. 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 Exhaust? Haunted house? Ghost house. Camera man. We need one more! We need one more! No! Oh, I put cheese gator. No! Oh, wait, we did it. Whew. All right, we can put that away. All right, chat. There's a couple more I want to show you real quick. Let me put the music away.
Hola, Nueva York. Ya pueden salir a votar y estoy pidiendo su apoyo. Por favor, busque su lugar de votación más cercano y voten por mí para ser su próximo alcalde. Me postulo para hacer que esta ciudad sea más asequible para todos. Voy a congelar
There's
la
something
renta,
special in this one I want to show
asegurar que
you.
los autobuses sean más rápido y gratis y ofrecer cuidado de los niños menores de 5 años gratis a todas las familias. Cuando miramos una visión de
No, okay, ya, córtalo. We cannot spend all day doing this again. Duramos como 3 horas la última vez.
sobre todo para los latinos. Sobre todo, okay. Lo siento, yo no hablo español muy bueno.
Él está corriendo para el...
But yeah, this is one of the things that he did. I showed you the Arabic one earlier. This one's Spanish. He's done others. I'm pretty sure he did one in Swahili. At some point, somebody mentioned he did one in Swahili at some point. But it's those little advertisements that like talk to the people in a major city where almost the majority of the population are immigrants and speak another language besides English. I couldn't tell you if it was a joke. I have not seen it. I had seen the Arabic one just a bit back, and then I had seen the Spanish one like yesterday or the day before. But he's done a bunch of those. The thing is like in that one, you can obviously tell that like he doesn't know the language to his core. But he's like he's doing the teaching and stuff. He's being taught as he does it to get the announcements he wants to across, which is more effort than any other politician ever does. Do you know how many of their commercials, if they do them in other languages besides English, are just like dubbed over? They just have somebody else dub over them. I've seen Spanish ads for politicians in Texas, and they're always dubbed over. Basically always. Unless you get down to the really specific local ones and you have a politician that first language is Spanish. Kiss the hand, shake a baby, and make a bride. Oh, what the fuck? That's actually a pretty good comparison. But, let's see, I wanted to find some of his other stuff because I loved his videos that were effectively like, what's the word? Oh, I'm brain farting on the phrase I was going for. Son of a bitch. My brain is now pudding. Because I saw this face. Look at that handsome devil. Right here, from this far left one. Look at that. Skits? It's both this, it's not necessarily skits. It's the educational stuff. That's what I was thinking of. His educational stuff. So like I showed you the one that was the pier, that was basically the Legitimataqua history of New York. And he's done a bunch of Skittles. Skittles. What about Skittles? Here, what's this one? But it was like his willingness to talk the history of New York. Important stuff that happened in New York that also eventually spread to other parts of the world.
Well, folks, you've done it again. We can't take any more of your money. Truly, you need to stop. Thanks to you, we've raised the maximum amount of money we can spend in this race, $8 million. And you've done it with more than 2 months to go until the election. So that means we got it in the bag, right? Wrong. You think Bill Ackman's gonna sit back and let us walk into City Hall? No! He's gonna write a very long tweet and then cut an even bigger check to one of our opponents. So get ready to see a lot more scary videos of this face on your TV. But just like we did in June, this movement can overcome their money in November. So we are once again asking, not for your dollars, but your time. Sign up to Canvas or Phone Bank at ZahranForNYC.com/events. Make it a weekly shift. And above all, do not send us any more money.
See, that was another thing. Zoran's campaign was funded majority by small stakes donors. Unlike, unfortunately, Sliwa and Cuomo were basically bankrolled by large, very wealthy donors, which to max out off of small donors and to actively admit that you can't take any more money and all that stuff. Stoners, probably. Yes, including the president. Considering Trump and Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo shared the exact same donors. It's not that surprising. Wait, he was on. Oh, I need to see this.
Wish you all the best. Honestly,
I need to see this. I never got to see this.
Who looks at someone getting an opportunity, who's representing communities that have not been as representative, a Muslim, a young person, a progressive, a democratic socialist. You know, there are so many different communities that are looking to you, and this
hell yeah, dude,
as a bit of a Jackie Robinson moment.
Trying to bribe? No, they were trying to bribe Sliwa to drop out of the race.
Probably wield some weight.
I wouldn't doubt they were trying to get him to drop out back during the primary.
What an exciting opportunity!
Thank
and
you.
I wish you the best.
Thank you.
I wish you.
But one of the things that, like, I said this before, Curtis Sliwa and Zoran Mamdani both have the integrity that like politicians should have. Sliwa did not let him. He admitted that he was offered millions of dollars to drop out of the race, so that it just came down to Cuomo and Zoran. He was willing to admit it, and then also admit that there was no amount of money that he was going to take ever that could get him to drop out of the race. If he was going to lose, he was going to lose in the general election. And I can respect that. Where's their third partner? I'm so sorry. Wait, what? Wait, what do you mean, Angel? Oh, yeah, of course they're going to try. They're going to try to do everything they can. Politicians, shut up. But, like, apparently the governor is going to try to stop Zoran, the New York governor, because she's an establishment Democrat. Did we win? We did win. And we're going to see how much we're going to be able to keep winning. I do kind of want to see what some of these pinned ones are. Oh, this is one of their earliest videos.
New York Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted by a federal grand jury.
Every politician says New York is the greatest city on the globe. But what good is that if no one can afford to live here? City Hall is engulfed in corruption.
Unscientific report.
The cost of living is the real crisis. New Yorkers are being crushed by rent and childcare. The slowest buses in the nation are robbing us of our time and our sanity. Working people are being pushed out of the city they built.
And I'm hoping it swings hard, Fake. I am hoping it swings hard. And if it doesn't, I will push that fucking pendulum.
I'll make buses fast and free.
So I can just get where I'm going.
I'll make childcare available to all New Yorkers at no cost.
I want to raise my kid in New York.
And I'll freeze the rent for every single rent-stabilized tenant.
These Eric Adams rent hikes are killing us.
Life
That's my mayor. I live in France. Listen.
But politicians like Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo want it to be this way. They care about their donors. They care about themselves. They don't care about you, the working class who keep this city running. This campaign is for every New Yorker who believes in the dignity of their neighbors. And the government's job is to actually make our lives better. We can afford to bring down the rent, have world-class public transit, and make it easier to raise a family. We can do all of that and so much more because this is New York. We can afford to dream.
We could also talk the marketing. His fucking signs and stuff are phenomenal. French person on the real. What's it like in France? That's, oh God, I could keep just absolutely blowing smoke up his skirt. Dude who drew girl obsessed with X? What? Oh, that artist.
Come on, let's step into the macabre hall.
Hi, Hectic. How are you doing?
Carnival. And please, enjoy.
How was your stream? How far did you get? Did you make it to the big punch up? Did you meet the other bad in the basement? Dreams cost money? Just prune the gardener? Nice. The crab artist, kind of. But again, this is like one of his earliest videos that he has pinned that's now at 1.7 million views. What do they think they'll do with the extra money? They'll put money into things like groceries, healthcare, hobbies, putting money back into the economy? Correct. investments to better the infrastructure of New York. New York is, God, I said this earlier, it is the microcosm of the rest of the United States in one city. Everything you can find in the United States spread out throughout the rest is all congregated in New York City. If you could, that's also, I forgot about Eric Adams' whole corruption case. That's where he was like going to court and stuff, and where he claimed like he was fucking Jesus on a cross at one point. I hope he guts the fucking system. I'm not gonna lie. I hope he guts the entirety of City Hall and like institutes hopefully some kind of council, like anti-corruption council, not just to prevent himself, but to prevent other people in the future from getting away with corruption. Because that's insane. Yeah, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. I think they wanted to ghostwrite our brain like how Fabian is, but the detective blundered his way into it first. Yes. After he was like saying like the eat me stuff, the gardener was like, take me into you, blah, 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 blah. Don't try to destroy America harder to stick it to the libs. I genuinely hope that we will either have somebody who is an American-born citizen that will rise up with the same values or more as Zoran and work their way up to the White House. Or we will change the conditions to be president, dropping the part that's also like natural-born American. Because if you can convince the country that you are as American as apple pie to become the president, it shouldn't matter if you were born here. Anti-corruption council you'll ever find is a room full of autistic people yelling at each other about how New York subways aren't running at the best possible engine or safety standards and how to allocate tax funds for it. Correct. A Bibleverse. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid. Is that Proverbs? I kind of hope it is. Probably worded different, isn't it? That's the thing too, Hedrick. I did talk about this. The thing with Zoran winning, it is a big wake up for Democrats. Don't get me wrong, but they are going to do what they always do. They are going to stand on the bar of standards, and they are going to claim because the moderate Democrats won in the governor seats in like, what was it, Pennsylvania and New Jersey and Virginia. They are going to say that, no, the Democratic Party doesn't need to shift more to the left. We need more establishment, reach across the aisle type Democrats, like these three governors that became governors through this. They're not going to look at Zoran as an example because they don't want to change. They don't want the change that Zoran brings. They want the status quo people, the neolibs that have now gotten positions off of essentially running as not Trump supporters. Mind you, again, we talked about this. I am so tired of the Democratic politicians over the last 12 years literally just running as not Trump. It's fucking insane. It's infuriating. It's not politics. It's not even being a fucking person. I have one argument, which is usually the primary reasoning why it's standard you must be native born. The ideology has had the potential of the enemies of the U.S. naturalizing and taking over only to sell us off to their home country, essentially. If you can rise to the seat of presidency and be voted in again by American citizens, I think they should be able to become president. Gavin Newsom? Yeah, fucking Gavin Newsom. Hi, Zyber. Hi, Willow. But yeah, that's again, speaking of Israel, yeah. Listen, it's fine. It's fine. But it's those kinds of things that, again, natural born American, like born in America to be an American citizen is, I don't know why it was ever implemented. Because if you can move to America, assimilate to the point where you start holding political office and work your way up to run as a president and win the election, God fucking speed, dude. Oh, speaking of which, Dick Cheney dying on the same day as Zorn becomes becomes the mayor of New York City. Hold on a second. I need a meme. I have a meme for y'all. There you go. My relationship with Allah. My relationship with Allah after Cheney dies and Zorn becomes mayor on the same day. Okay, listen, I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying is that it's biblical, okay? That level of play is fucking biblical. On the night of a full moon, mashallah. Mashallah, brothers and sisters, of those of you who have seen the light of Allah. God has willed it, baby. God has willed it. And he do be willing it. Adoration and presence are two separate entities. I'm just happy to see you. Aww. But yes, I think this is a good sign. I do kind of want to watch a few more of these like other popular ones and why they're marked as this.
Another candidate has joined the race for mayor of New York City.
Zohran Mamdani is the latest.
I also never understand how people are still butchering his name. Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani. Assholes.
And that is why I stand
You can have the goddamn courtesy to get somebody's name right.
New York City mayor. Make no mistake, this will
Argument falls apart under the context of spies and government agencies, which we actively know is true currently. You know, immigrants can also, like, that's why we have the judicial system. The judicial and, oh, god damn it. What am I forgetting the third one? Judicial and executive, judicial. Oh my god, I'm brain farting. This is embarrassing. The argument falls apart under the context of spies and government agencies, which we actively know is true currently. Correct. But the president can't act alone. Yeah, legislative. Again, there's tons of checks and balances as much as Trump has been trying to whittle them away and Republicans have been whittling them away for decades. It's time to reestablish the understanding. Do you want to risk the possibility of having the greatest possible president simply because he was born somewhere else and moved here as a child and grew up to understand what the values of being an American are? Go through and he refuses? Correct. But again, the thing is if it's the possibility of introducing somebody like Zohran Mamdani to become president, and the downside in the future would be somebody's a spy that becomes president, which we already know Trump is a fucking Russian asset. That's not new. It's already happened. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? I'm not even joking. There's literally papers on it. I can't remember what the code name was. He has a code name when they refer to him. It's not even just like he's he who Putin's bitch. He's like actively has like a asset code name. You can Google it and find the documents because I believe it was the Kremlin that had a leak like a couple months ago. And it was mentioned in it, and it basically just all ties to Trump being an asset. I think the reasoning of having it is already stupid. I don't think it's weak at all. There is as much support for having it as there is for not having it. There's still the requirement of having lived in the United States. I could understand also changing it to be like, you have to live in the United States for 10 years, something like that. But I think the have to be natural born citizen in the United States is just dumb. Fake orange? No, it was something a little more subtle than that. I think it had something to do with a bird, but I can't remember. 3 hands up his ass puppeting him? Yeah. Yeah. Krasnov? Maybe? I don't remember. I think even self-care, though. My throat is starting to hurt. Also argue that there should be age limits as much as term limits. I also agree with that. I think there should be an age limit. Like, if you're above retirement age, you can't run for president. That's it. Or maybe like probably a more tight-knit number, like 72. Maybe a little less than that. 68? 60 hard limits? Maybe. 65? I was gonna say the 60s feels a little low for how long Americans live in general. I do think, though, that salaries for politicians should be lower. All salaries for every single politician should be reduced to the average salary of the American citizen. Go ahead, have that $43,000 a year and see how you fucking feel about other Americans living off of that. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's see how fast things change. Minimum wage only? That works too. That works too. Tied to the minimum wage of the state? I think it should be federal minimum wage. If you're a state politician, sure. If you're a federal politician, it should be the federal minimum wage. Why are we paying them? Because they kind of do have to live and feed themselves. Salary, the average salary of their constituents, really makes them work to better their place. I would rather it be over the entire United States. Because if you do that, then you kind of just end up with like power hungry states. The median? I speak jokingly. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I could also understand if instead of doing that, if you became a politician and it basically just worked like a boarding school. Everything was subsidized for you as long as you stayed in the dorm, ate in the cafeteria, and went to work. Go ahead. Go ahead. That's what y'all get. Also, no more fucking lobbying. You get your paycheck and that's fucking it. That's all you get. No more fucking investing. You have to divest completely. Stamp down on corruption and donations. The thing is I doubt if you drop their salary down to the median American salary, they would make some changes pretty quick. They would make some pretty standard universal changes. I think we need to do the, what is it, Singapore? We need to do the Singaporean method, or maybe even the Chinese method of when you get caught in corruption. You know what happens in China when you get caught as a corrupt politician, right? Hey, chat. You know what happens in China when you get caught doing a little bit of corruption. Drawn and quartered, you're pretty close. Execution. That's death penalty, baby. You've brought shame on yourself and the political establishment. Ling Qing, listen. Okay, that's actually kind of funny. That's actually a good joke. In the case of corruption in Singapore, caning. You get beat. Caning. The gallows be busy today? Listen, I agree. I always wonder the policy too on why like politicians don't seem to just take money from places and then invest them somewhere else. Like if an oil company came to me and was like, we're going to give you $10 million to, I don't know, kind of grease the wheels on getting us this like plot of land. And instead I just give the $10 million to like green energy initiatives. What's the legality on that? Do I like sign a contract with them if they're like lobbying me? A blood eagle for corruption? Maybe. Also, hi, Sooty Raven. America's looking up for once. That's true. That is very true. And they can't see you? I'd never sign a contract then. They can get out of my fucking office. Listen, if I couldn't misdirect them or do whatever I wanted with the money and not actually have to follow through on their things, fuck that, dude. Fuck them. Destroy the generational wealth, create meritocracies within companies? What? Oh, actual meritocracies? Where things are actually led by merit and not by who you know? Might be much. Other people might get psychological damage they don't deserve. Oh, no. All right, let's see what this video is, though.
Will be a fight. Any chance you want to sign a petition to get Zord on the ballot? Any chance you all want to sign a petition to get Zord on the ballot?
No thanks.
All right, no worries, no worries. How you doing, sir?
My
This
name is Zoran
was-
Mamdani. I'm running for mayor. And why did you not vote?
Because I don't believe in the system anymore.
Okay, this was last month. This is just some of the older footage from the year before.
My name is Zoran Mamdani, and we are here to kick off canvassing for 2025.
I am here because I grew up in New York City and I can't afford to live here.
I am so
This is the wild video,
tired
is
of
it?
having politicians run New York City who don't care about the working class.
Because it's days like
Actually, with that logic, can we sue politicians? Yes, yes, you can.
It's not the days when people have heard of me or our campaign.
He's up 1% of the vote.
Es Zoran Mamdani, no sé si lo conoce.
He's building a movement that goes beyond what we just expect out of a regular politician. People are looking for politics that actually lead somewhere.
According to the latest polls, former Governor Andrew Cuomo is way
Thing is, too, is he looks like a good guy. He acts like a good guy. He walks the walk and he talks the talk.
Rising second is New York State Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani.
Appreciate you. I hope you win this, man. Yes, sir.
Oh, this is him running into the water on Coney Island. I've been to that beach. It sucks.
I saw us fundraising numbers.
Good luck, man. We're behind you.
We're exactly 2 months
Second should be
away from election day.
68.70. I can see that.
Thank you so much.
Zero accomplishments.
I also think politicians should also have like cognitive tests.
I have never cut Medicaid.
There should be an unbiased like doctor.
I have never hounded the 13 women who credibly accused me of sexual harassment. I have never sued for their gynecological records, and I have never done those things because I am not you.
This will be
I like the
a night
lady that's
we will
signing
look
in the
back
bottom
on
corner.
as being the one where we started winning this race, not just competing. We're not satisfied with making a statement. We're running this race to win this race.
A 33-year-old socialist nipping at
Yeah,
his
that's what they do. Somebody has tried to sue politicians for that, and they've already set the precedent, Angel. You're right.
Across the country and the world.
They can say whatever they want, and they actually have.
All the money
Hold
in the
on.
world.
Politicians have already been given the go-ahead that they can make any promises that they want to get elected, and then they don't actually have to follow them. Looking at you, Fetterman. Thank you for the follow, City Raven. Welcome in. The super hard test Trump mentioned? Sure. It's scary. The thing is, though, with this election cycle, it's very interesting. This is a massive turnaround from last year's election. So it is, and next year we are going to be having the midterm elections, which is going to have a lot more governors up for re-election, a lot more politicians and like state level folks up for re-election, including some of the federal like senators, representatives and all that. It's going to be very interesting. I feel like they should be penalized for not fulfilling promises. I agree. Or at least not trying to fulfill promises. He's a cuck and a sellout. He also has brain damage. He had what, like 2 major car accidents after he became a politician? And then like basically fucking swapped parties without actually swapping. Fuck that dude. Fuck that dude. I thought he was cool at first.
We've got you.
I do hope that that one guy who's running for Maine Senate
Here in New York City.
is genuine. He seems genuine. I hope he's genuine.
Braving the extreme heat to go vote.
It's going to be a big one.
Ugh.
It is 11 p.m. and Zoran Mamdani is on the verge of a major political.
If you had to guess the next city or state, if this keeps going, where would you guess? If we got another candidate that's like Zoran Mamdani, Michigan. The other guy that technically he did lose, he lost to the establishment Democrats.
Come on and step into the
Hi,
macabre
next.
halls of the dark
I'm gonna guess it's gonna be Michigan.
And please enjoy the
Turn the volume up. Hi, next. How was your stream? Welcome in, Raiders. We're talking good news and I'm trying to convey to my community what makes a good politician and what makes a bad politician, and why Zoran is basically a wonderful case study for that. Also, that's my fucking mayor. Anyway, you've been next. Oh no, I've been next. What is that? What happens? Do I waste away into nothing? Wait, Clash, why are you sad? Why is sad kidding? I wish Greg Abbott had a hard shit pushed back up his asshole. What the fuck? You get cookies? Yippee! Yay, cookies! The start of the week has been kind of depressing. Hell yeah. And I am gonna be in Scandinavia soon. You're correct. Listen, I know. That's my mayor. I say currently living in Texas. But I very much hope that this is a green light on seeing younger people, more left people, standing up for the things they believe in. And Zoran has set a very good template for what younger politicians can do, is to actually present themselves to their communities, connect with the communities that you are going to be representing, understanding every single aspect of your constituents, not just like what Republicans do 99% of the time and go to the rich white neighborhoods and try to look pretty off to greener pastures. Hopefully, very hopeful. The housing shopping is not going great. Yeah, correct. Who cast their votes. Like his campaign, I could only describe as effectively beautiful. He was there to learn and to educate. He was there to understand and discuss and be available to the people. Clausart, oh my God. But would have internalized that lesson. Hell, Varelli LaGuardia was doing that more than a century ago. Correct. He actually had a video on them, but we'll see if we can find it in a minute.
I will be your Democratic nominee for the mayor of New York City.
A political earthquake.
Again, I will say this again. Andrew Cuomo's a fucking loser. He is a sore fucking loser. This is a man who, again, convicted of 13 counts of sexual harassment, and then turned around and sued those women into gag orders so they could never talk about it again, including thing he mentioned of effectively suing to get the gynecological records of one of the women, meaning he wants to know what happened in and around that coochie at any point in time. Fuck that. Eat shit, dude. And then he conceded in the Democratic primary and then bought his way back into the election as an independent. I genuinely think they never should have let him back. I don't care how much money he got. Why the fuck was he on the stage between the two major parties? That man should have been standing outside in the rain. But still my goat. Yep. Strictly demographics, political movements indicates only parts of Michigan, Washington, California, New Jersey, and one could argue Pennsylvania. However, to say where they'll win, probably Jersey. I mean, those are the places that have already won now. But again, most of the people that won outside of Zoran Mamdani are very much establishment Democrats. They're likely to just stick with what the party wants. Independent D's nuts. Listen, it's fine. Also, hold on. I got to stand up real quick. I've gotten heated in here. So now I'm like, you know, when you're like on the verge of sweating. All right. Muslim mayoral candidates winning in their states? I hope so. Sadly, the other Democratic socialist that was running, and I think it was Michigan, did not win. He lost out to another Democratic candidate. Blue Earthquake was outstanding last night, so fingers crossed we'll see that tsunami next year. Maybe. We'll see what happens. I am very hopeful now. I'm very hopeful. If Zoran didn't win, I would have, not gonna lie, I would have been a little suspicious of something that went on because it just didn't seem like there was a way he was going to lose. It just didn't feel like there was a way for him to lose. And if it happened, I would have been like, okay, somebody's got their fingers in the pie somewhere. That's too suspicious. But let's finish this little clip.
Shockwaves through the Democratic Party.
Zoran Mamdani
was a little-known state lawmaker until recently.
Declaring victory in New York City.
Hold on, go back.
Shockwaves through the Democratic Party.
Zoran Mamdani
was a little-known.
Why? His name sounds like it looks. How do you fuck it up? Mamandi. M-A-M-A-N-D-I. The name is Mamdani. M-A-M-A-N-D-I.
Democratic mayoral primary.
It has to be. They have to be doing it intentionally.
Election is in November, and I am in it to win it.
No, you're not. Shut up. Take off the polo, you fucking paste bucket.
Governor says he's staying in the race for New York City's mayor.
Tell Zoran I said hello.
What are these oligarchs?
It's like calling her Kamala.
Mr. Mamdani
Kamala?
becoming an example
Kamala?
of what can happen all over this country.
Because you have changed the history of the
Or is it K Mala? Is that what you're trying to get me to enunciate? I don't know. I don't remember how they butchered her name.
And they are watching it because we have the audacity to believe that working people could win.
That's a winning smile.
They could in fact afford.
The thing is, too, is it could also... So many people could also just be like, it's a cult of personality. I disagree. I mean, yeah, he's charismatic. Yeah, he has a good smile. Yeah, he's good looking. But his policies are good. Kamala? Oh, I do remember that. Kamala? Hi, Geyser. Look at us now. I mean, people are always going to say stuff like, it's just a cult personality. He's not actually going to be able to do anything. Miss Marvel? Wait, what? I don't think so. Hold on, what is this last few seconds?
What? Hear what I say. We are the business today. Fuck shit is finished today. RT&J, need a new PB&J. We dropped the classic today.
People love someone who's charismatic and competent. Correct! Like, he's great. And I don't see a man who put in so much work to connect with his communities, with all of these communities, to turn around and be lying the whole time. There's no way you put in this pass by 3 newsstands. None of them are selling newspapers. Like, what do you mean none of them are selling newspapers? Or they're just not selling the New York Post one? Seeing all the TikToks and people dancing to Frank Sinatra last night was beautiful. I agree. I very much agree. Here, what is this one?
A big reason we support your campaign is because
A little loud.
it's becoming unaffordable. This is becoming an unaffordable city.
Look at this guy.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think
People ask me why I ran.
I
still remember being so nervous backstage.
The boo-boos.
when I went on two shows.
Ew.
I know, that feels like so, that was just in February. And it's amazing to see like
Oh,
how
for
far
sure.
you've come, how many people you've inspired.
What's going on, Gabriella? My name is Zoran Mamdani, and I'm here because we only got 3 days until the election.
God, the volume just keeps changing. It sounds like a Beatles concert. Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah, those hurt my ears too. Somebody was like croaking it out, like their voice was already shot.
How you doing, brother?
It's a really pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Of course. I'm so happy to be here.
If they have any of my dear 7-Eleven or pop into the transit hub, thank you. That'd be awesome. It's no big deal if they don't. It would be cool to have a copy of it because it's so fucking funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Wild of Brooklyn, New York, we have a very, very special guest in the building. Can you please put
The dude, oh my God.
some noise for our soon-to-be mayor of New York City, Mr. Zoran
Damballa at midnight. Again, these were the things that I was seeing, that whenever they, like, you see stuff like this, how excited places get. The people that just are thrilled to see him on the street. That's what a politician should be.
Let's go, make sure to go vote. Come on.
Oh my God, the Demon Slayer
6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
little coats.
NYC.com/GOTV. Find a canvassing shift near you.
Easy stuff.
one last picture with
Thank you so much.
Security.
Yes. What's up, man? How you doing?
Oh yeah, he did. He had an early rapping career.
Thank you.
And his dad, I think it's his dad, is a Bollywood director. But like,
guys who are 5'11".
those things. 2 guys that are 5'11".
Appreciate you. Thank you as well.
Yeah, some of his videos are still out there. You can find shirtless pictures of Zoran. Jesus. Oh, that actually hurts my left ear. Why specifically my left? I don't know. Trying to go to the donut shop? Oh, yeah. Elsewhere. Just elsewhere. Damn, that is a disco ball.
You know, I just first want to say such a deep thank you to Poppy Juice
I can turn down more.
for creating a space for queer and trans New Yorkers in a city where so much is about struggle. It's so important to have a space for
They're so, yeah, I was gonna say, like, a lot of the Republicans are so fucking awkward. It's like this. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to engage with people. He's sociable. Unlike the fucking weirdos we have in the White House, who, if they weren't politicians, would probably be fucking shut-ins. Or in prison. Honestly, probably in prison. Not like us by Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, nice. Also, wait, is it buffering? Huh, I've never seen TikTok buffer. Weird. I'm a shut-in. Can I be a politician? Do you think you can be sociable if you go outside? Are you an agoraphobic shut-in? Are you... There's a lot of questions here. A lot of questions. I don't know. Can you sim? Are you willing to get out there and meet the people? To present yourself to the public? Sharia law in the city? Which is, again, weird because Sharia is already law. Found some pro-LGBT, they were like, hey, he's not following Muslim tradition by being anti-LGBT. That's not even Islam at all. Frankly, none of the Abrahamic faiths are anti-LGBT. In writing, stick with me on this. In writing, the people, however, are generally because the extremists of all of those religions are extremely hateful people. Well, I'm too awkward. Listen, Sin, you either gotta work over that, or you can always support. You can do canvassing, you can do phone banks, you can do all these other things. Make rules that affect their lives massively? Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I probably could have been a politician, but the problem was no one ever believed me then. Then don't talk bullshit. That's the thing. Zoran doesn't talk bullshit. He talks the things he genuinely believes. He's honest. He's convicted. He has conviction. He's convicted, convinced. Not convicted is not the word. He has conviction. He knows what he wants. Between the moderate and extreme forms of faith, Islamism, that's Islamism. That's Islam. It's fundamentalist and extremist Islam. Sharia law was made by Islamism. That's not a word. But it's Islamic extremists, yes. The thing is, though, Sharia law is nothing specific. In the Quran, Sharia, the law, when you say Sharia law, it's like saying chai tea or naan bread. It's the law. It pertains to the law of the country you live in. You have to respect the laws of the country that you inhabit as a Muslim. It's not some defined set of rules. It's not some shit of every single woman now has to cover themselves up. Yes, Muslims practice the faith of Islam. Islamism is just some random nonsense that for some reason Westerners like to make up. Yeah, Muslim and Islamist. That's one word you could use, but it's usually the best way to do it. Islamist is basically just shortened for Islamic extremist. Same thing with, like, if you wanted to shorten it to like Catholic extremist, Christian extremist, whatever. Yeah, Yeah, it's white people being racist and nationalist. Why do y'all keep saying Islamism? That's not a word. I've never heard that word, and it sounds wrong. It sounds vehemently wrong. Hold on a second. Is it? It feels like something made up by fundamentalism. Where does it come from? Political ideology that seeks to apply Islamic law, parentheses, Sharia, to govern all aspects of public and private life, including politics and society. It views Islam as a comprehensive way of life, not just a personal faith, and differs from Islam by aiming to establish a government and social order based on its interpretations of Islamic principles. Okay, yeah. I got you. Okay. It just doesn't sound right. It doesn't roll off the tongue very well. That's not the right thing. Yeah, it just doesn't roll off the tongue very well. Yes. The, what is it? The Islamic Republic of Iran. Where does it go? Where does it come from? Islamism, Joe? Jesus. It would be better as Islamism, Mo. Just shorting Muhammad. I mean, they technically have elections. Technically. Actually existing. That's the full name of Iran, just in case you didn't know. It's the Islamic Republic of Iran. Because it burned in the ears that I can understand. I don't know. It just doesn't sound right. It feels like something made up by someone, like someone that says transgenderism. Okay. But why? Anyway, we only got like 50 seconds in this one. Oh, it's still buffering. Is it broken? Okay, we can just skip it. Oh, I've seen this. This is from Halloween. I saw the video from the person who's dressed as the phone. There's somebody else holding the camera. Amazing. Oh, it's frozen. Why freeze? Yeah, like the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. You really like the SNL sketch on his debate? Yeah, he did. We actually showed the part of the video from that earlier. All right. Are we good? Is there anything else that we need to click? Actually, we'll do this one. This is the last one. I will turn it up. Give me just a second.
A Muslim, a Jew, and a Christian stand here supporting this campaign to take our city back. Here in this city of mosques and churches, temples and synagogues.
The debates were so funny. I just honestly like that it was borderline a roasting session for Cuomo.
Which feeds the hungry, houses the
but why? Jingoism and racism mostly? Yeah. Yeah.
And protects every single
Plus, hi, Daedalus.
child's right to dream.
In my sacred text,
Really do a Cotton Eye Joe. How dare, proud of you. Oh my God.
where he sees folks who are hungry, he takes what is there.
My friends were making memes of the debate all night long. That's hilarious.
And begins to
Those are good friends.
distribute it to people. And everybody ate. Whether you live in beautiful Brooklyn, the bustling Bronx, money-making Manhattan, Staten Island, or Queens, everybody can eat.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
When we include and not exclude. Democracy thrives not on fear, but on radical empathy. It demands we trust one another, respect our differences, and elect leaders who reflect our collective identity, not just a narrow majority. Islamophobia is not just hate, it's a strategy. The same forces that target Muslims are also targeting immigrants, the working class, the homeless, black and brown people of all kinds, especially those amongst them who dare to speak truth to power. To my brother Zohran Mamdani, we know that your victory will belong to every family fighting to stay in their home, every worker demanding dignity, and every young person daring to dream of a fairer world. Because when you rise, Zohran, we all rise. When you speak truth to power, you remind us that the moral arc of the universe still bends towards justice, but only when we bend it together. So let's keep bending. Let's keep building. Let's keep believing. This is our city. This is our moment. And this movement is what New York City should look like.
I just didn't want to speak over that because I saw this yesterday and I just thought it was really nice. Last night was the home borough of Chuck Schumer. Brooklyn voted for Mamdani in damn near a 70% clip. Let's go. Amazing. Get fucked, Schumer. God, it just makes me happy. It makes me see hope in the distance. And to see a man who seems to like genuinely have the convictions and the belief that things can be better while also believing in what, how do I word this? Good. But what I was going to say is the American spirit. Mamdani feels like he genuinely believes in what America has wanted to present itself as, the land of hopes, the land of dreams, the melding pot of the world, a place where so many people around the globe wish to move to live a better life. That's honestly, historically, probably just turned out to be a lie, to be propaganda pitched to the world, and then propaganda pitched to its own citizens. To be the land of the free that it pretends to be, to actually become that place. Yes, very much. U.S. silently but steadily building itself back together. To be honest, no kings, the courts still remaining sturdy, etc., etc. I don't think, I'm going to say this just flat out. I don't think the United States was ever the land of the free that it claimed to be. It was definitely embellished for the point of bringing in new people to the country. And it was always that. But that doesn't mean that it has to stay a lie historically. To have somebody like Zohran Mamdani to stand up and say he wants to make life better for the largest city on the planet, for every single demographic, LGBT, white, black, brown, every single American, every single person that calls the United States or the city of New York their home. I don't know. I just see hope in this man and other people like him. Oh, never. It always fell short on its promise. The good bit is that it's still fighting to get there. Yes. That the Americans who grew up believing in the United States being the land of the free, home of the brave, a land of promises, a land of opportunity. People are still trying to get there. They still see that story on the horizon. But at the same time, they don't. Many of the people in the United States don't see every person that stands beside them as worthwhile. The idea of American exceptionalism, especially individual exceptionalism, has poisoned the idea of many Americans, of them reaching out to their neighbor, understanding their neighbor for who they are. I'm quite the fan of Zohran, dude. He's such a good person. Hell yeah, beef. I know I repeated myself a lot over the 2 hours, but it's just parts that I wanted to drive home. I dig him. If you can't tell. Good man, good smile, good policies, good work. Just everything seems good about him. So when's the video on this coming out? Are you gonna highlight clip it? Are you gonna highlight clip it? Bro quoted Eugene V. Debs. That's my goat there. Let's go. Hold on a second. This for real. It's never been truly the land of the friggin' American dream is still a dream, but the fact that we've consistently been moving towards it is the true soul of America, in my opinion. This is a step closer to the right path. I agree. Extremist fundamentalist form of interpretation of Islam to post ideologies focused on control and rigid to change. That's why I said it was the Muslim equivalent of Christofascism. As you know, Christianity and Christofascism are not the same thing. Most Christians aren't Christofascists, but the ones who are loud and are loud and dangerous. Likewise, most Muslims aren't Islamists, as the ones who are loud and dangerous. Unfortunately, there are countries with Islamist regimes right now. Correct. Yes, you are not wrong. But it's those things that, like, over time, we can change, we can loosen, we can come to understand each other and understand that the only thing that we have for sure is this one chance. Everything else beyond this life is speculation. You can believe whatever you want, that there is any sort of afterlife or something or nothing. But the only thing that isn't pure speculation is the one life we live now. And god damn it, I want it to be better. I'm tired of the selfish. I'm tired of the greedy. I'm tired of the people that just hate for hate's sake. It fucking sucks. It genuinely does. We're going to be playing Deck of Wands shortly. I'm just tired. I'm tired. I was tired. I'm no longer tired. I'm angry. And if leaving the country doesn't work out, I think I'm just going to put my boot up the establishment's ass and probably try to work my way into politics. That's two life paths right there, baby. We're either getting out or we're going to make the change ourselves. I think the confidence that y'all have given me and the things that I've talked about on stream has been enough for me to consider running for like smaller offices or putting myself out there. Why did you put Vor, local? Why did you put Vor? Let's go. Oh shit, I should have not taken the screen away because it's game time and I need to run to the bathroom. But it would be wonderful. This is how we would know if it was Barrett on the podium. No! Exclamation mark fish. We're gonna be like Texans. We're gonna have like Texas viewers show up at the rallies. They're just gonna be holding a sign up that's just exclamation mark fish. This isn't a Macari stream. What? Just ban you? Oh my god, can I do that? Hold on. All right, come here. Commands. New commands. Name. Okay, and then we need Twitch. Type. Oh, how could I get this to work? Oh, I think I needed to send a message instead and just make it do the type commands. Right? Hold on, I think I need a different thing. Right? If I just make it, if I make it do where it like types out the targets, shouldn't that work? Because I'm looking at the Twitch dropdown for the things that I could make it do. But let's create poll. All right, let me give y'all another round. Hold on, what did you say before? Should be that hard, huh? Well, the thing is, I'm also going to make it do like a little announcement. Oh my god, I could not scroll down. There we go. Where's the thing that just sends like a Twitch message? Chat message. Should I do it through the chat message method or should I do something else? As far as I'm concerned, I was born here. I'm dying here on my feet and not on my knees. The work with no kings in the 50501 movements definitely showed me that the rats in power are just that. Rats? Correct. They are rats. It's time to stand up and be people and stop being conniving little rats. Good Lord, somebody is putting in work for that skirt one. Jesus. Don't insult rats. You're right. Rats are very sociable and cute. Oh, I don't know what else to call him. I think rat's still just the best one. A very rendered skirt. They also gave him whale tails, which is very funny. Steak. There you go. Sunstar. What would be the best way to do this? The moderation block? Okay. I don't think I have to put in a target user. Okay. Okay.
Making a mother of all omelets here, Jack. Can't spread over every egg.
Then I'm guessing if I don't put a target in, it's just gonna... Skaven aren't real. Ratmen are just stories parents tell their children to behave. Correct. All hail Ratma. All hail Ratma. All right. I have no idea. All right, we're gonna test it then. Let me save it. All right, somebody do exclamation mark vor. No one? Nah. Here, I think I can actually change the reason. Okay, I can. This is gonna be hilarious. This is only gonna be for the mods to see, though. Oh my god. Y'all are gonna get yourselves in trouble with Twitch. If you get timed out too many times, you basically stop counting for a viewer always. All right, chat. I'm gonna take a brief break again. I didn't get to run to the bathroom during that commercial break. Sunstar, you're in charge. Just give them the next level of Gardic because I'm probably not gonna be back before that timer runs out. So I will see y'all in a couple minutes because I really gotta pee. Have fun. And I gotta go let Coco back in.